This is probably the saddest story, and it is an encapsulation of modern women with feminism, the downfall of men as providers and protectors, and it's everybody. It is society as a whole. This is probably the biggest indictment, this story. They're going to call her a star, but I don't really think she is. OnlyFans escort, let's call her that. OnlyFans escort who hooked up with, and I'm going to have to really just like dance around this thing for the next 10 minutes, who related with 100 guys in 24 hours. I feel guilty. Now, this poor girl is named Lily Phillips, and she is from the UK, and she set a record in October that she wanted to hook up with 100 men in 24 hours. Like I said, a lot of people are going after her. Oh, look at her. She's such a this. She's such a that. She's, oh, blah, blah. What about the 100 dudes that signed up for this? Where's the chivalry with them? Yeah, she offered, but you didn't have to say yes. But this idea of, and I feel bad for this poor girl. She's a young girl too. Who has been lied to with feminism, who has been lied to the point where in an age of, no objectification and so forth, the only value this woman feels that she has is what she can physically present to the outside world. And it's absolutely devastating. So when the news broke that OnlyFans escort was going to take on the challenge of hooking up with 100 men in just 24 hours, many saw this as a clear behavior, as a clear danger to her. Physically, mentally, this has to be an absolute red flag to anybody. And the fact that her parents, now, of course, her parents didn't know about this till after, but the fact that her parents allowed her to do OnlyFans is not really a great head start. Lily Phillips announced the challenge without regard to the consequences. When she announced it, a documentary filmmaker named Joshua Pieters, you can say that, contacted her to be able to tell the whole story afterwards. So a final document that came to light on December 7th on YouTube, an interview full of emotion in which the 23-year-old, this poor girl, and this ain't the first time she's hooked up with multiple men as an OnlyFans quote unquote star, has shown concern about her physical and mental well-being. 100 men in 24 hours at a London Airbnb. By the way, if you're the guy who owns that Airbnb, I don't know if you just fumigate the place, burn it, blow it up. I don't know, man. In the video, the reporter can be seen entering the room where the encounters took place, which was full of tissues, wrappers, and a rose on top of the bed. Now, I actually did see this video. What could not be perceived in the video was the actual smell, as the room, quote unquote, stank. And if you watch the actual video, the cameraman walks into and actually gags from the smell that this took place. And this poor girl was subject to it. Now, some of you can rip me apart saying, she's a consenting adult and blah, 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 blah. Clearly, this woman has some kind of mental block, some kind of affliction that has her in this place where this is what she feels she can only do. In her speech, she recounted the script she had been repeating more than 100 times that day when each man entered the room. Not going to read any of that. Afterwards and before Josh began asking questions, the woman began to cry. And there's actually a couple videos from this. Now, there's nothing bad in this, so you can listen for yourself.
By I think like the 30th, like when we're getting on a bit, I've got like a routine of like how we're going to do this. And like, Sometimes you'd like disassociate and be like,
Folks, somebody said this, I think it was on Pop Culture Crisis or something of that way nature. What she put herself through used to be punishments for women. This was an ultimate death scenario. And it is today. It is the ultimate nightmare for women. And this person voluntarily did it. They voluntarily put themselves through it. And you listen to this. I disassociated. It's absolutely tragic.
you know, like it's not like normal things at all. In my head right now, I can think of like 5, 6 guys, 10 guys that I remember, and that's it. But it's just, I don't know, it's just weird, isn't it? Like if I didn't have the videos, I wouldn't have known I've done 100, you know. But yeah, I think that was kind of the hard part, is like conversing with them, and like when they'd kind of be like, oh, like we've only had 2 minutes or 3 minutes and you said 5 on the message.
Did someone say that to you?
Yeah. And obviously it just makes me feel so bad.
Can you believe that? And this is where the men are absolutely at fault for this. Okay. Yes, she put this out there. She subjected herself to it. But the ultimate act of selfishness for these guys. Oh, I thought I was going to have longer. What the hell are you doing there in the first place? And the age range went from 18 to, wait for it, 80. You heard that right. 18 to 80. And this poor girl, oh, I thought I had more time. What? You think she's going to fall in love with you with this? Think she's going to be like, stop the cameras. This is the man of my dreams. Let's go. Absolutely just stunningly awful.
Do you think you should feel bad about that?
I guess when you've promised something to people who support you, it's kind of hard to let them down.
Now, this is there is a personality type where you're supposedly like a people pleaser, right? Where you feel like you have to please everybody, and it's and it's tragic for those types of people. Obviously, they don't end up doing stuff like this, but this idea that she's in this situation and now she has to make sure everybody is happy.
But it's up to you, right? Like when you know.
Yeah.
Have you even processed, do you think, what's happened?
Not yet. God, I won't forget this day, Jesus.
When I decided to start...
Do you think she'll ever really process it, guys? Do you think, guys and gals, do you think she'll ever really process this? I don't think so. I don't think she'll ever be able to process it. Why? Watch this video. This is the video that everybody's been focusing on all day. Yeah, full body, yeah. Go.
When was the last time you ate?
I had I think I had a yum yum, and I think I had a sandwich, and that was kind of, and then the rest. It's not for the weak, girls, if I'm honest. It was hard. I don't know if I'd recommend it.
Why not?
Oh, really? You don't think you'd recommend being intimate and having what we would call in the Catholic world the marital embrace 100 times in 24 hours?
No.
I think if you're a different type of girl, it's very like, it's kind of like being a prostitute in a sense.
Honey, as everybody else has pointed out, it's not kind of like being one. You are one. And that's the thing. Like, you can see her brain is not able to. And just like any victim of trauma, she'll have PTSD from this. She'll never be able to process this. She may be stuck here mentally for the rest of her life. She may be stuck here in that moment for the rest of her life.
Sense of like, it's just a different, feeling. I don't know how to explain it. Like,
It's not like just having sex with someone.
yeah. Just one in, one out. Like, it feels intense.
Like more intense.
Did you see that? Right there. That is the first, probably, that's most likely the first time her brain is actually starting to acknowledge what just happened to her physically. And then you can see her face visibly drop.
Intense.
Like more intense.
There. Right there. The eyes just go dead. And I don't see why you couldn't.
Intense than you thought it might.
Definitely.
And then she starts crying. That's why they had to go to black, because she could not continue the interview. She feels guilty because blah, blah, blah. Surprisingly, one of her statements, yeah, we've already read it. However, the situation might not have been so problematic, folks. Why? Because now she wants to embrace 1,000 men in one day. Not 100, not 200, right? LeBron, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 600, not 700, 1,000. In a proper society, in a properly ordered, Christ-centered society, this woman would be instituted. And I don't mean that in a bad, malicious way. Not even America. This lady's English. She's English. This is a Western society, my friend. This isn't even an American thing. The Brits have this one. This all took place in London, jolly old England. Which is funny because on the other side of the street, it was like Sharia law was being practiced. In a Christ-centered society, this woman would be institutionalized for her own health. She would be involuntarily put in a psychiatric facility. And I mean that with all the charity I can muster, because she is a danger to herself. She could possibly die from something like that. This thing that she's trying to do. This act of trying to hook up with 1,000 men in a day. And it has to spring from some form of abuse somewhere, mental most likely, or this woman does not feel like she has anything to offer in life except that. Now, is that a byproduct of feminism? Possibly. Is it a byproduct of growing up where, you know, she was obviously probably attractive when she was a teenager and growing up, and she was getting those features, and men paid attention to her only for that. Nobody valued her personality or who she was. They only valued her for her physical appearance. And so she was trained essentially to only promote that. You know, and the documentary continues where she talked about, you know, I thought intimacy was a special thing and I wanted to save myself for marriage, but then I didn't, and I realized it wasn't special. So she went from, I want to save myself for marriage, to, hey, I'm going to have it 1,000 times in one day. And it was encouraged. I don't know if this is legit or not, but apparently her mother is involved. She's got 8 employees that work for her at her OnlyFans account. None of these 8 people are going to say anything except, you can do it. You can do it. Do you know why? Because their paychecks rely on her. Which is a problem, because now you have an enabling society. You have this sphere of influence that do nothing but enable this poor girl. I mean, it's akin to a, the 1980s rock star who was who was hooked on methamphetamines and all these other kinds of things, but the agent and everybody kind of kept feeding them that, because you got to get back on stage. You got to get back on stage and you got to perform because our paychecks rely on it. I can't pay my rent unless you get out there and perform. That's what all of her people, her staff that work for her. Hey, you got to do 1,000, you got to do 2,000 a day. I got to make rent next month. So none of these people are going to step in and save her. What man is going to value this woman? You can't. I don't think a man can value. I mean, and she expresses this, the only guy that'll ever take interest in her is a guy that, in her words, will lend her out. This woman has no prospect of ever being truly happy. And this is why I call it the Lily Phillips tragedy, because it's absolutely just a product of America, of Western civilization, of feminism, of destruction of the family unit, the de-emphasizing of what makes a woman truly special, and even equality. Right? Go out there and earn that. You go out there and earn that money, girl. Yeah, you do your thing, queen. That nobody will stop and say, hey, listen, maybe you shouldn't be doing this, because then you're slut shaming, and then you're anti-woman, and you're all of these other things. And it truly is awful.